aka the pattern guy, working the pattern shop again, continuing on with the tally hole project, trying to wrap it up. I started gluing up the core print for this. It's going to be a little bit different the way we're going to do this, but it's the only way we're going to be able to do it. So I'll show you how to get into that. First of all, I'm going to show you how to put the ribs in here, and there's a couple bosses. We'll get into those. Last week, like I said, one of the things, we'll try to answer some questions in the comments because there's so many comments. Thanks for them. It's great. Love reading through them. Sorry, I'm not going to reply to them because there's just so many of them. I'm not going to be able to do it. So we'll try to get to the comments as we're going, okay? So one of the biggest things we're getting is a lot of, why don't you do it this way? Why don't you do it this way? You know, basically 3D print again. In that the premise of this YouTube channel is to promote craftsmanship for one and old school methods. I want to keep the old school methods alive, trying to teach you guys how to do things the old school way. I think it's very important personally. Your computer goes down, I got CNC machine in here, your motherboard goes down, you got a job that you got to get done. I can do it by hand, all right? If you learn on a CNC machine, CNC router, 3D print, something goes wrong with that, your customer wants his part, you're not going to be able to do it, okay? And the way I always look at it, and what I try to tell my son also and other younger guys, it's just learn it and you know it. You don't have to use it ever, okay? It's actually fun to learn this stuff. It's really, and I tell you what, nothing beats working with these things right here, okay? I've heard lots of guys, I heard a TED Talk, one guy say one time, you know, wouldn't it be great to sit in front of a computer and just punch stuff in, clean environment? I like getting dirty. I like getting sweaty. You know, I want to work with these things, okay? I don't want a computer or robot doing my job, okay? That's where I get enjoyment, and it's therapeutic. It really is, okay? So get on with this thing. I know I ramble too much all the time. Another thing I did last week, we lost one of the more important steps I wanted to show you. I'm going to show you real quick how to get a center on a straight line, and I got a couple suggestions on how to do that. The reason I did it this way is because it's a curved surface and it's more difficult to get like a triangle in there with a square edge or a square or what. So this will teach you how to, you know, this one's a concave. You can do it on a convex surface, all that kind of stuff. That's the way you can do it, you know, and it's very, very accurate, all right? So let me show you that real quick, and then I'll show you how to do some ribs and some bosses in the tally hole project, all right? Hang tight, guys. Okay, guys, I think how I lost this last time, I truly think I just didn't turn the camera on. So what I'm gonna do real quick, I'm gonna show you how to do this, all right? Let's just pretend that this is a curved surface, all right? We gotta get our one center line on, okay? All right, now if you remember what we had to do, I had that straight edge up here, and let's just say that, you know, this was the outside, so we had to get a center from here to here, okay? A lot of times it doesn't matter where your center is, you know? So right here, we'll just have a center, okay? Normally we'll do it with this. Let's put a knife mark in here. Okay, so first thing you do is you take your dividers, okay? And it doesn't matter where they are, but the farther out you go, the better. That way, like if I have two centers in here, you know, it's gonna give me more of a chance to wobble my straight edge, right? So if they're out here and out here, I'm a little bit more where I'm not going to be able to wobble it and make sure nothing's cocked, okay? So I'm going to try to get it as far out as you can all the time, okay? So basically, what we want to do is strike an arc here. You're right on the center. Strike an arc here. So these two arcs are the same distance out from the centers, okay? Then what you want to do is you want to spread your dividers out, and you can use trammels to, you know, whatever, okay? And like I said, you want to get these out as far as you can. Technically, we probably should use the trammels, but I'm just showing you, okay? So you strike an arc on a perpendicular about where your center is going to go over. Okay, strike an arc, then you come to this point again here. Okay, let me make sure you get that. Okay, we're on the opposite point from the center there. Strike an arc, and just strike an arc. And you got your point from here to here. And then this one up here is here to here. Okay, so that should go from here to here, and you should be on your center. Okay, so you take your straight edge, all right. Okay, so there you are. We went from point to point over here, and we're in our center, and we got a 90-degree angle right in here. Okay, so you get your centers. Okay guys, that's like I said, I'm trying to teach. That's why I'm going over this stuff. I'm trying to teach young guys. I've been seeing a lot of people asking how to do these things. I've been seeing a lot of people of you know, wanting to do this stuff online anymore. I'm trying to get this stuff keeping going, all right? So let's get on to the tally ho project again. And I gotta go get a couple pieces of mahogany to make some ribs. I'll be right back. Okay, one real quick thing. I'm gonna answer a question. It's something I should have told you guys before too. Somebody asked about radiusing the corners and that. Before I stuck this thing in, I did this after we turned the cameras off the last time, okay? Before I put this center piece in here, I rounded all the corners on it that needed to be rounded, okay? The next thing I'm gonna do too, one of the things why I was having a hard time with the centers here too was because I had already put this fillet in here, so I couldn't get my dividers right in the corners to get a center. That's a gentleman kind of asked why I didn't do it that way. That's why I didn't do it that way, because it's not going to be as accurate. All right, so what I'm going to do with this too, before I start putting the ribs in, I want to put a fillet all the way around here, and then that way that's going to make that easier for me to, you know, just be able to wipe one continuous fillet around versus there's 4 ribs in there. So I'm going to have to go to the rib, skip over the rib. It's going to be easier if that fillet's in there already before I put the ribs in, okay? Hang tight, guys. Okay, guys, we're on to the ribs, okay? So basically how we get along to do that is grab your square. I do have a depth gauge. You can use verniers as a depth gauge. Just picked up these real quick. Just get these out. Get it to your height. And don't forget, when we measure casting, we measure standard, okay? So we're gonna measure the standard. I got my standard scale, it's 1 7/8, okay? Now I'm gonna turn over to my 1/8" scale, all right, shrink scale. Got this block that should give me enough for the ribs, and I'm kind of hoping for these little bosses we have in here too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a flat edge and a straight edge on one edge on the sander, and we'll start laying it out. I'll get 1 7/8" high, and then what I'll go do is back and I'll put some draft on one side, and then that'll I'll be able to get the width of my ribs, and we'll make them from there, okay? So let me get over to the sander. Okay, I got the flat bottom and I got a square edge. So what I want to do is I want to get my width first. Just take my shrink rule, 1 7/8. Mark it on here. And that'll be my width, okay? Another thing I've never said in here before, one thing too, is that sander is not a grinder. So there's only about a 1/16 of an inch on here that's sandable. Try to get off as much with the bandsaw as you can. That way you're not sanding. You'll go through less sander pads, all right? So let me hit over by the sander and we'll get this to width. Okay, I'm gonna double check this. All right, that looks good to me. So what I'm gonna do now, so we've been putting 2 degrees on everything. I'm gonna go set the sander for 2 degrees. I'm gonna get 2 degrees on both of these sides, mark a width, cut them on the bandsaw, and then my rib stock will be done. Okay guys, I got my rib stock. As you saw over on the sander, what I did, I sanded the one side, or sanded both sides when it was that bigger block. It makes it easier, you know, to handle that way, okay? Then once we got to these thinner parts, you know, you saw me again, you know, just jam it down on the table. When you're just first starting out, little trick, okay? When I was over on the bandsaw, this is the leftover block I have, okay? I set the table for 2 degrees and I cut that at 2 degree angle, okay? So what you could do is take the first side that you sanded, you know, this would be the side that you just cut off on the bandsaw, okay? What you can do is when you're first starting out, to help you, when you have that sitting on the table, you might rock it, okay? Like I said, I've been doing this for 40 years. It's just easier for me just to not, you know, I can do it without it rocking. All right, and actually here, I'll show you. See, I don't know if we'll be able to see it, but okay, you got what, good 16th over there, and good, since it's got the same amount of draft on there, okay? All right, so what you can do is I got 2 degrees on this, we just cut off. It is rough, but that doesn't matter, okay? It's parallel already, so what you do is you get some double-sided Scotch tape, okay? It's like great for when you're first starting out. I mean, I actually use it too. All right, so you got 2 degrees plus on this. You flip this over so it's 2 degree minus with the tape, and you tape that on there, okay? Then you got this big wide area here that you can sand this 2 degrees on the sander, okay? It's just easier for you to do it until you get, you know, used to using that sander where, you know, you can hold this down and not rock it, okay? So what we gotta do is we're gonna cut these to length, but first I gotta get where we're at in here, okay? So what we got to do for in here is we got to find out where we're at, all right? So there's a couple different ways. Actually, when I'm looking at this, I'm hoping, let me see if I can make sure we get a good camera angle here. So what you could do is we could use a pair of inside calipers. Okay, that's what I was going to do. Try to get the dimension here, but we're actually, my fat fingers out of the way, we actually get this boss coming out here, and that I don't know exactly where I'm at. So maybe what we should do is we got to get we'll get the outside dimension here. Okay, so I get a pair of outside calipers. Thing we got to watch, if you can see here though, is, I don't know if this is, you're seeing this here, there's a radius in here. Okay, so we got to kind of get this line straight down here and into here. Okay, we can't measure from the outside that radius, so we got to go from the outside to over here. Okay, as far up into this radius here as we can to get the true dimension. Okay, so let me go grab a pair of outside calipers. Let's try to measure that up. Okay. Okay, like I said, what we got to do is we got to try to get it where that straight edge is going to be coming straight through instead of on the radius there. Okay, now to me, to my old eyes, that's looking like it might be it there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the other side and see where we're at there. Okay, that doesn't mean that when this was first made it's perfect either too. So like I said, working off the old cast is what you got to do, and this is being a experienced pattern maker, experienced craftsman, you got to sometimes, you know, get some artistic, you know, perspective into it, and you kind of got to figure out which way is the best way to go. Okay, and like I said, and actually this one is a lot closer in, you know, so probably what we could do is we'll take this measurement and we'll get the other measurement and we'll go halvesy, all right, where it's at. So I'm picking up this one outside one. It's like 6.5. So there's the other thing where it's 6.5. So the other one, like I said, it's going to be in. So it's probably be about 6 7/16. More than likely, it should be the 6 7/16 dimension. You know, but I think it's actually more than a 16th here though too. So yeah, way. So this one actually, it's like 3/16 of an inch off. So should we fudge it? Should we do that? I'm kind of betting that it should probably be at the 6.5 inch mark is where they should be. All right, so I think that's where I'm gonna make it. You know, should you call your customer, say, hey, you know, this is dimensions way off, you know, what you want me to do? You could. Most of my customers basically know that I've got enough experience to go ahead and use my own judgment and do it the way I think it should be done. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do it at the 6.5 inch one mark, because more than likely that's probably what they were trying to hit at first, and then this one just got skewed a little bit here. So we're going to do the 6.5 inch mark. Plus the other thing, you got to think about what you're working on. This is a over 100-year-old boat part. These ribs are for strength. 3/16 of an inch difference isn't going to make or break this casting. Okay, now if this was a part for a jet engine or, you know, nuclear submarine part or something, I'm on the phone to the customer. I want to get exactly what that dimension is. Okay, but here we're just going to go with the 6.5. Okay, so what I'll do is get my dividers. I'm going to take my shrink rule, and half of 6.5 is 3 1/4. I'm going to set these for 3 1/4. And in a second, I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff here. All right, let me get rid of some of this stuff here. Okay, now the other thing too, remember where I took these dimensions? I took it at the top. So we've got quite a bit of draft on these things, so I can't put my mark on the bottom. So what I'm gonna have to do basically is I'm gonna extend my center line that's inside here up, and then these are 1 7/8 high. I'm gonna put a little pencil line where I'm at about 1 7/8, and that's where I'm gonna put my mark, okay? Because if I put the inch and what do I got, or 3 1/4 inch mark down on the bottom, I'm gonna hit that wider part of my draft down on the bottom of this rib where I added, you know, there's a good 3/30 seconds on here. So if I hit out there, that's gonna push this top dimension over 3/30 seconds. We don't want that, okay? You could add 3/30 seconds onto your divider, mark it on the bottom. I'm just gonna do it like I said. I always like to do things from the top down, okay? Hang tight, guys. Okay, now I got my center line all the way up to the top here. And like I said, I'm just gonna put a quick pencil line 2 7 or 1 7/8 up. Like I said, that'll be good. That'll be close enough for what we're doing here. All right. And then what I'm going to do from there, take my square, go up to that, and then I'm going to put the square mark down here. Okay, now I'm going to take my dividers that I set. Got to do this left-handed here. Okay, I'm going to take my dividers that I set. Okay, get it on my center line. Make a mark. And over here. Make my mark. Okay, flip this around. This on my center. Make my mark. And make my mark. Okay, so that's where the outside of those ribs are gonna end up. All right, so we got the marks where we need. All right, now what we gotta do is we gotta cut these to length. And then go from there. Problem we have now, what I'm gonna do is we got 2 degrees draft right here on this surface, right? But this bottom, like it angles down, okay? And I'm not sure, we never got the angle on that precisely because I used the template, right? So what I'm gonna do is just gonna get a piece of cardboard in there and I'm gonna get what angle that is. Okay guys, got some cardboard here. Like I said, especially when you're just first starting out, cardboard, the poster board's invaluable. It really is. So you do so many things with it, like I make segments with it and everything. All right, so I'm gonna, basically we got the fillet in there, so I'm gonna cut that off right away. All right, and then it's real simple. Make sure that you got, well, when you do this stuff, make sure you work off a straight edge though. Okay, so I got my straight edge. All right, and then next of all, you know, you could do this different ways. A lot of times a pencil width will make it. This one, we're not gonna make it pencil width wise. So what we're gonna do is put the ruler in there. And then we're just gonna follow the ruler. I got the ruler up against the inside. And we'll make a mark on there. Okay, it's not going to do it all the way. I'll show you what I got. Okay, so that was, I had my ruler on the wall and I got my mark. That's the degree I need. Okay, so I can cut this. All right. Now the other thing with this too is this should be able to flip it, and it should be the other degrees for the I lied to you. We got the 2 degrees, so it's going to be a little bit different. All right, so we'll make a different one. So we're going to label this outside. That's my outside angle. We'll make one for the inside. Okay. And like I said, this is the easiest way for you guys starting out. Before you can afford like a bevel and stuff like that. Once you get going, you know, catch you up with a bevel somewhere. I believe I showed you what those things look like. Not 100% sure. Okay, so here's my inside angle. Okay, now another thing. How important is this? How important is this angle? How important is that joint fitting in there? Okay, we're going to put a big chunk of bondo around there in a fillet. The inside of these, they actually have a boss that's going to go up against them. So this is where the kind of tricks of the trade come in. All right, one of the ways you could do this, you could paint that inside. You could cut the ribs a little short, put some wax where you're gonna attach them. You can take some bondo and squish them in there. You're just starting out. That's way, good way to do it. You don't have the machinery to do that. Okay, do it that way. So they have to be that tight. I mean, that'll make you real tight. It'll be a perfect joint, basically. Do you really need that? You don't really need that either. Could I just do them a little short? There's going to be a gap, and you're going to fill in with bondo. That's another way. More than likely, I'm not going to get these 100% perfect. Okay, like a furniture joint. All right, but I'm going to try to do the best I can. Like I said, always do the best you can. The reason I'm going to do the best I can, get these as tight as I can, is because I want these ribs to be glued in there really well. So if I have a big gap in there and the surfaces aren't touching, they're not getting glued together. Got a big fillet around there. You're going to use this once, no big deal, But like I said, this is my training. I'll always try to get it as close as I can. Like I said, we're not going to get too perfect with these things too. All right, so we got these angles. The other thing too is we actually have, they're spread out like that too. So we're going to have an angle on the other side too, right? Okay. So that's the other thing we got to think of. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my angle on one of these. All right. That's my outside angle. And then, I don't know if you can remember, I do believe we had the divider set. I believe, yep, about where we're at. So that's the top dimension. So we got that. Outside, inside. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go cut these out on the bandsaw, and then we're gonna get them on the thing. We'll see how we fit. Okay guys, I got one sample piece. One of the things I did forget was this is the outside. It's a little bit taller than once it goes into that hub, okay? So I had to reconfigure my angles here. I kind of did it on the fly, a little time saver for me. You'll get, like I said, we're gonna be going over and over and over this. The reason I wanted to take off the bottom, if you remember, that's where I was actually taking my angles from the bottom. Okay, so basically what happened, this cocked down, so it changed my angles. Okay, so I kind of had to redo them a little bit. No big deal. I got this one what I'm going to do from this, I'm going to make another one exactly like this, and then I'm going to make 2 more mirror image to this, okay, because they're on both sides, right, and the angles, so that makes them different, okay. So kitty corner, kitty corner, kitty corner, kitty corner, okay. So I'll show you what this is. Hopefully we'll be able to get this in here. All right, there's my mark right there. I want that inside piece. All right. Okay. There's the inside there, and that comes down to into this corner, and that's another thing I had to kind of fudge a little bit. Okay, now so you can see I've got this real tight in there. I'm tight on the bottom, and then by the time here, okay, I had to fudge it a little bit. I got out a little bit. I don't like that, but here again, we're in a hurry for this job, getting behind. I'm going to be putting a ton of Bondo in here. I'm going to wrap Bondo all the way around here. So I'm going to use this one, but what I'm going to do with the other ones, I'm going to extend it about another 16th, okay? I will take care of that. Okay, but instead of throwing that one piece out, making another one again, which I won't have enough stock for, I'll have to cut another rib. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to use this one and fudge it in there. Like I said, if we're going to make hundreds and hundreds of these, I'd make sure it's a little more tight. I wouldn't do that, but unfortunately right now it's you know, we got some time constraints going on us here, plus a little bit of time constraints, plus we wanted to like, there's only one, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to make one more exactly like this. We're going to add a 16 to it, and we're going to make 2 more mirror image. All right. Okay, guys, I got the ribs in. They're glued in. Got a little bit of Bondo in them too that I really didn't want it to get them a little closer. Just couldn't do it. I got time constraint. Like I said, it's just one job. But there's the they're gonna do one off of this. So here are the ribs in there. Okay, so next we got to do. You know, remember we got to do the bosses that are next. Okay, so what those are, I measured them up already. They're 1 inch and 3/8. I'm gonna double check that on the casting. I'm sorry, 2 3/8. Good thing I did check. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, they're 1.5 inches wide. So I lucked out on this piece that I made the sides. So I'll be able to get 1.5 inches wide. So I'm gonna go 2 3/8. Make 2 blocks, 2 3/8. Okay, they're 1/4 inch thick. All right, I gotta get a square side here. I'm gonna mark my square side. Just put a couple lines on it, no big deal. All right, I said 2 3/8 high. So I'm gonna get 2 blocks, 2 3/8 high. I wanna make sure I got my square marks there, okay? I'm gonna go cut these out on the bandsaw. I'll be 2 3/8 high. I'll have a couple square sides. I'll put a center line on here. We're gonna mark a radius in the draft, okay, after that. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna sneak in there and put a radius on each side to fit the inside radius. Here again, do you need to do that? Not really. I could take some Bondo and squish it in there, get a radius, no big deal. I'm gonna try to get the radius as best as I can. We're gonna be wiping a big fillet around there. Guys just starting out, you don't have the equipment, easy way to do it. They're 1/4 inch thick. So we're gonna get it to 1/4, or get the angle on, or the radius on there, cut them to 1/4 inch thick, and they're straight across from there. Okay, so hang tight, guys. Okay, guys, got these blocks done, got the center all the way around. Okay, I got them to height. The radius on here is 3/8 or 3/4 of radius. Give me 1.5 inch diameter. Okay, so what I did, I struck my arc here, okay? Right, and the trick I showed you the last time was to get draft on something. I could put this is the same thing here, right? And then just widen it out a 1/16, go tangent to my 1/16, and I got draft, okay? However, this one, I got 2 degrees specifically on the rib that's in there, the one's got to go. So I'm going to have -2 degrees, then +2 degrees, right? So I'm just going to use my protractor. But if you don't have the protractor, like I said, you know, the easiest way to do it is to, you know, go use your dividers and just add a 1/16 on. And that's why I said it's another reason why you guys want to have your center lines on all the time, okay? Kind of makes it easier. All right, so we're going to use this for this particular job. Okay, now I gotta watch out with this here too, the way I'm gonna do this. Because one, I'm gonna have, remember, like I said, they're gonna be mirror images. I gotta do 2 one way, 2 the other way. Okay, so I should be able to get, it should be this side's one, this side's the other, back forth. So I should be able to just cut this configuration out as is. All right, and then go from there. We should be good. All right, I just gotta remember which one's which. And that, okay, so we'll try to label these up as we're going. That's another thing with pattern making. Just keep on label. Just label everything. You know, if you use a label, you use it. If not, no big deal. You know, it gets painted over or whatever. You know. Okay, so I got these going here. I got minus my 2 degrees from tangency. All right, and I got my 1.5 inch diameter here. And then I got plus 2 degrees on this side. Okay, so I'm gonna go cut this out. And then from there, we'll get the, we're gonna put the radius on here on both sides. Okay, and then we'll cut it at 1/4 inch straight across. And that'll be our pieces, okay? Hang tight, guys. Okay, guys, I got my minus 2 degrees on one side, plus on the other side, okay? What I did too was the radius that I'm gonna put on here that's matches the inside of the part that we're working on. It's going to allow, it's gonna be back 1/16 inch, okay? So these are gonna be 1/4 inch thick. So 1/4 plus 1/16, 5/16. So these are little cheat things that you can do, make yourself go fast. And you know, like I said, it just, there's becoming a journeyman is basically you learn how to cheat a lot, right? So what I did was I put a 5/16 mark all the way around here, okay? So I'm gonna put a radius on this part right here, both halves. That's why I got this big block. I can get on the sander and sand, okay? Now it's gonna be square. These are gonna be parallel, okay? And the reason they're gonna be parallel, oh, where's my draft? The draft is already on the inside of that ring, okay? So it's got a 2 degree draft. So if I make this flat, put 2 degrees on here, that's gonna kick it out to 4 degrees by the time I add it onto the 2 degrees in there. So I already got my draft in there, so this is gonna be 5/16 thick all the way around, okay? And technically it'll only be 1/4 inch on the sides, and right at the very center it'll be 5/16, okay? And like I said too, with these things is it's a boss on the other side. There's a through hole. I think it's just giving a little bit more meat for that through hole. The way these are, they're kind of almost unnecessary too, the way they are, but I'm gonna do it the way it's there. Okay, it's kind of the way you gotta do things, you know. So, but it's, you know, this is the way it's gonna, you know, a little bit of a cheat way to do it. And I said that's where you learn, you know, part of it being a journeyman, you kind of learn how to cheat a little bit here. So, all right, I'm gonna go sand the radius on there. I'm gonna go over the bandsaw, sand it almost to the line, sand these things, I'll be ready to glue in. All right, hang tight. Okay guys, I got all 4 of these fit in there. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna round the corners on these things before I glue them in. I made the mistake of putting the ribs in without rounding the corners. Not a big deal, I can do it. It just would be way easier if it was out, okay? A lot of guys will just take a router or two. You could do that if you want to. Me, by the time I get the router set up and everything, I got these things busted out, okay? So that's another way you can do it. Okay, next step from here is we're gonna take this over to, or we'll have to wrap fillets on the inside here, but what we'll do is we'll take it over to the milling machine. I got the rotary table set up on there. What I'm gonna do for a holder for this thing is, if you remember when we first started out, we got to make a parting block for this. I'm gonna use a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood, and then I'm gonna put that radius of the lip in there, okay, and then set that down. I believe it's got to go 3/8 of an inch down. So we'll cut into the piece of plywood 3/8 of an inch, and then we'll set that on there. It'll be perfectly centered. I will be able to get my center easier on the pattern itself, okay, plus I'll be able to screw some screws in and clamp it down, make it easier for clamping it down too, okay? So we'll do that you know, down the road. Let me get these things in, then we'll get over to the mill. Okay guys, to the next step, I'm going to go over to the mill, do a little bit of stuff on there. You guys don't have mill. What we're going to do next is we got to make a parting block, what we call a parting block. All right, so what we got to do is, if you can see here, right, we got this bulge here, and then it goes in and back out. So if we mold this, and the sand impacts in there, there's no way to take this pattern out of the mold, okay? So what we got to do is make a core box so that we'll be able to get this out of the mold, okay? So we're going to come out halfway tangent to this radius up here, come out, and then have a nice amount of draft on the core print, okay? But here's the problem with that, is we can't do that down here because it's bulging the other way, okay? I mean, we could probably incorporate it into the core box that way also, but it would be easier to make a core box, you know, tangent to both of these radiuses, and then we'll just put the last 3/8 of an inch down here on a parting block, okay? So that's what we're gonna do, all right? And then once we get, you know, it made, that you'll see a little bit more of basically how that's going. But you know, there's the inside of it. What we did, we got the ribs in there, the bosses and that. What I'm going to do is, I kind of wanted to do this clear so that Leo had something nice that he could just, you know, put up on a wall later or whatever. But it's just, it's not, with the clear, I can't see a lot of the stuff that's going on with it and that. So I am going to go ahead and do the traditional paint job on it. We're going to put some undercoating on it, sandable primer, you know, sand that up, and then we're just going to paint it red with the black core print. So I think we're just going to go ahead and do it that way. So next step we're going to do is we got to make this hole right here, okay? So that's going to be in the top of here. All right, so we got to mount this thing up onto the milling machine. If you don't have a milling machine, what we could do is you could do it with a router in that, or another thing you could do is we could oversize this hole with the router and then make a plug, like a core stick kind of deal, and then pour a plastic also. That's another way you could do it if you don't have a milling machine. I got a milling machine, I got a rotary table. That's the easiest way for me. All right, that's the way we're gonna do it. So what I'm gonna do, the best way to mount this to the milling machine for me would be to in the rotary table. I have a sacrificial piece of pine on the rotary table over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount a piece of plywood to that. That's what I'm going to use for the parting block. Okay, and then what we're going to do is mill a groove in that to be able to put this into it. Then we'll be able to clamp it to that, and then put this hole in here. Okay, so let me get set up. I'll show you how we're going to do it. All right. Okay guys, I got a quick center in here. The easiest way for me to do this is I made some of these things up. Okay, it's a 1/2 inch diameter and it's got a center mark in there. All right, so now honestly with plywood, the points of the dividers or your verniers are gonna stick in, and you don't want that to, you know, it gets off hole. This thing will give you a perfect hole. Plus I'll have the hole in here, 1/2 inch hole in here, and then I could always go back to the perfect center on there because it's round. All right, we don't really need we don't need center lines on this particular part, you know, because we're going to have that groove in there. We'll show you all that stuff. All right, so these are, if you got a metal lathe, or if you got buddies that have metal lathe, turn a whole bunch of different ones. I got them all the way down to 1/8 of an inch, I think, so I can go, I think it's 1/8 inch, 1/8 quarter, 3/8 half, and that got the center in there, and your gold. A real nice little thing to have here. All right, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the drill press, drill a 1/2 inch hole in this plywood. We'll take the verniers, you know, mark a radius out here, and we'll get her mounted up. All right, hang tight. Okay guys, now let's get to do is stick the center in here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take our trammels, not verniers, kept on calling them verniers before, trammels. All right, we're just going to do a rough circle for right now. We'll do, once we get the core print where we need it, we'll go ahead and cut this down to exactly where we want it. You don't want the parting block to extend too far past the pattern, because that's just going to make it, Clark's going to need a bigger flask because it's going to take up more room. So it's not that huge of a deal there. But I just got to get rid of these square corners to get it up on the mill, make it easier for us to mill it on the milling machine. Okay. Okay, that's it. Okay, and then like I said, we'll just pop this center back in again later once we get the core print where we want it, and we'll make this perfect. All right, I'm going to take this over to the bandsaw, and we'll head over to the mill with you guys and show you what we're doing over there. All right. Okay, guys, we're over here at the mill. Like I said, I have one so we can do it this way. It's easier. So here's, if you see this, hang on. All right, so what we got here, I got my rotary table. I put a piece of sacrificial pine on. This is what I do a lot of times too. Since I work with wood, it's easier to work off of this, all right, for clamping and that. What I do is I indicated this in, got it on center. Then what I do, I always put a 1/2 inch pin in the spindle, and then I got a 1/2 inch hole in this piece of sacrificial pine. And then what I do is, before I screw this down to the rotary table, I got this pin in here, so this way I know this is right on center with my spindle here. Okay, that's the other reason why we put this 1/2 inch hole in here. So all I'm going to do now is put this down here. Now this should be perfectly on center. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this is going to be our parting block the inside of it we're not going to see at all or use or anything. It's not going to be part of anything. So I'm just going to put screws right through. All right, screw it right to. It'll make it easier. Okay, now I have a 3/4 inch ball mill that I'm going to use for the mill. All right, so if you don't have a milling machine, a ball mill on that, what you can do is make a little circular template. If you got a 3/8 radius round bit for your routers, you could run it around that, make it. If you don't have any of that stuff, if you only got a square one, what you could do too is just route with a router, route a groove all the way around in here. You don't really need that radius in there. Okay, if you want the radius in there, put Bondo in there and squish it. No big deal. I could use just a regular end mill in here too. You know, I guess you really don't need that radius in there, but I'm just going to do it because that's what I got. All right, so we'll get this thing going and show you where we are from there. Okay guys, I got this all set up. I made some clamps for it, just wooden ones real quick. Little wooden clamps, got them 4 spaces. And we're gonna start cutting this hole in here, okay? Okay guys, that's gonna do it for this video. We're gonna start in on the core box next video. So that's not too bad progress. We got the hole in here. We got the inside done. Okay, hope you guys learned some stuff. We're trying to still learn some stuff here too. Where to put the mics on here so you don't hear me breathing. I'm sorry about that. It's got to be irritating. Another thing we did today, part of this video, I'm sure you'll find out at the end, I forgot to plug the mic in. Had them both on, I forgot to plug it in. So we'll get there one of these days, and that, you know, it is a struggle. I don't do this kind of stuff for a living, so we're trying to work it all out here. So we'll get it one of these days. But anyhow, we really appreciate you guys sticking with us. Really appreciate everybody that has subscribed so far. Hopefully we'll get a whole bunch more people in there. And with that, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. Have a good one out there. And most important, stay safe.